Hey everybody, welcome to the WAAMU board meeting. I'm Dr. Mark and I will be the WAAMU president today leading this meeting. We are really excited that everyone took your time to be here today, and if you're watching this later, welcome. We hope you just get reacquainted and maybe meet some new folks as we look forward to some big events coming up this year, like Alumni Weekend in June, as well as a lot of stuff that's going on campus right now with current students. We're really excited to talk about that, but we're going to get started. I do need someone to take minutes. Is there someone who's willing to take minutes? If you are, please raise your hand or let me know in the chat, because we do need someone to take some notes. Anyone willing to take some notes? Do I need to call on anybody? Sarah, would you like to do it? All right, awesome. So Sarah Franklin, who is a awesome support person from the Miami Alumni Office, will be taking some notes here. We are going to do some introductions. So one of the things that we're working on is a poster for the June alumni weekend. And what we want to do on that poster is highlight some of the Western traditions that have been in the past. And we're going to do some fun things in June to mimic some of those. So my introduction is your name and a memory of a tradition that you had at Western. So I am Mark Mussman. I'm graduating year of 2001, if that's applicable, of Western. And my memory is of convocation. Was at the beginning of the year. And we had my senior year, I was able to be a speaker at that convocation. They asked me to be a speaker, and my dad and my stepmom were there. And at one point during my speech, I said something about keep your head to the sky. And all of a sudden, these birds, it was in Ernst Theater, and all of a sudden, all these birds flew like right across. It was like perfect timing. I didn't mean to make it happen, but I was like, what just happened? It was pretty cool. So we're just going to do this by volunteer. So if you want to volunteer, you can. If you want to just use the chat, like if you don't want to be on video, that's fine too. But I am spotlighted, so I don't know. I'm assuming once you talk, it will pop up on you. So we'll just go ahead and just take some volunteers. Who wants to go first?
I can go. I'm Phoebe. I graduated in 2019, and I think one of my favorite traditions is honestly the graduation. It was just so nice to have it in Coombe Chapel and to have it just our own little ceremony apart from the whole arts and science in, the giant Millette Hall and all that stuff. It felt much more intimate and much more Western as well. So love the graduation ceremony.
Feel free to just chime in.
I can go. I'm Katie Gibson. I graduated in 2005. I am a librarian at Miami. I'm actually on campus right now. My favorite tradition, honestly, I think the one I like best more recently is working with the capstone students, the students working on their senior projects. I see them early in the process, and every year it's so fun to like have everybody draw their topic on the whiteboard wall in our classroom and see what everybody's working on, because it's just all over the place. And kind of like the videos that we watched said, like so many same major but such different work.
I can go. I'm Marla. I graduated in 2017. My favorite tradition, I don't know if this counts as a tradition, but living in Peabody and going to class, like where you live, I guess the tradition would be like wearing socks to class, wearing pajamas to class. Like you can't do that, regardless. But if you're living and going to class in your same hall, it's really special, really unique to get to have that relationship with your professors. So that's me.
I'll spin off of that. I'm Audrey Boggs.
Oh,
Can you hear me? Sorry. Um, I'm I'm 2010. Sorry, I'm getting a call simultaneously, which confused me. I'm a 2010 grad, and my favorite tradition I was going to say is the living learning community. I loved really being able to um, live and learn in the same environment, and I think that's kind of something that was special to everybody. I hope I'm not being recorded. Um, but living learning community is my favorite tradition of the Western campus.
I'll go next. Everyone hears? I'm on my phone today, so I can't hear. But Miss Janie Graham, my favorite tradition would have to be the senior dinner. I really enjoyed that. Unfortunately, we had ours virtually, and so we didn't get to have that in-person experience. But I really enjoyed being able to like have those final moments with my class. They gave us all sweatshirts with the Western seal on it, and so it was a really good experience.
My name's Jeff Patton. I'm a 1988 grad. I guess I have two memories that I'll share. One is that as a freshman, I helped organize a softball team comprised of Western students and one Western professor, Bill Green, who shocked the world down in Oxford and won the all-purpose intramural softball championship. That's a fond memory. The other is that a bunch of us, we were there before the Frisbee golf official course was installed. And there's a group of us who take credit for inspiring the university to actually establish, a proper Frisbee golf course with the chain link holes and so forth. We were playing our own course that they kind of tracked to build the new one. Anyway, that's my story.
I think we've got a few other folks. If you don't want to introduce yourself, that's fine. If you want to just introduce yourself in the chat, otherwise, go ahead.
I'll go next. My name is Sean Collins. I graduated Western 2003. I guess favorite traditions that I can think of, probably sweaters and ciders, which me and my roommates were lucky enough to host a couple years. Yeah, I mean those
Awesome.
fall in Oxford is a great.
Awesome. And then Eric, we can hear you typing, so I don't know if you want to.
Cool. Like I'm having bandwidth issues, so it's cutting in and out. I'm Eric Johnson, class of 03, and Sean stole my favorite memory from Western with sweater and ciders. So I'll go with my second favorite, which was favorite first year and cotillion. So all the various parties we would throw throughout the year, all great. But sweater and cider always holds a special place in my heart. So it was a good time. You did good, Sean. You did good.
Right. And
Thanks,
then
Eric.
Ben, did you want to, I don't know if you wanted to introduce yourself.
Sure. I have to apologize. This is the second meeting I've been in today where Zoom has informed me that you need to update now. And it's led to some differences in functionality on the mobile app. So I'm futzing around with this. So Ben Gibbons, class of 1994, on the 5-year plan. I'd love to extol about the tradition of pranks and typically being the person who'd have to go to Carl Schilling's office to beg forgiveness or uncover for folks afterwards. But that's probably not as relevant these days because I don't even want to think what that would mean for someone's permanent record in this environment. actually, I really want to build off what Audrey said before, and just the whole dynamic of the living learning environment, and wherever that might play itself out. Whether that was in the dining hall for hours on end, um, over cigarettes, which people smoked back then, and you could actually smoke in Alexander, or late night bull sessions in the halls of Peabody, either the narrow halls, either on the north or south end, or the big hall, in the central corridor. Just regardless, all those things where we got together and really did a lot of back and forth between ourselves, and really got to figure out who we were and also dive deep into what we were learning. Yeah, there was just something so powerful about that, and I really lament, for those students, whether in Western or other programs, that just don't have the advantage of that, living next door to the people you're taking classes with and really being able to dive deep into it at all hours, and how much you grow as a result of that. That, I think for me, ultimately, that's what will resonate the most, now and in the years ahead as I look back at it.
Awesome. And Barbara, do you want to introduce yourself? Be awesome.
Well, my life at Western was very different. I am impressed that most of you have learned the correct pronunciation of Peabody. It's not Peabody, it's Peabody Hall. And I was blessed to live on the 4th floor of Peabody for 2 years. Those were rooms up there, they were triples. But certainly my favorite memories of Western were the fact that we were all women. We didn't have to worry about you guys, that we could go to class, not dressed in our pajamas, but not as worried about how we looked as we would have in a co-ed school in the 60s, which would have been a very different environment than all of you had. I'm thrilled that I get to be part of you on this project. And we really do hope that lots of you will come to reunion, and we want to make it special for you too. And by the way, I graduated in 1968, which was before most of you were born.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I think that was everybody. Debbie Baker's.
Mark, can I go?
Hey.
I'm
Yeah.
sitting in a parking lot in a vehicle. I'm Debbie Baker, and I've worked for the Western College Alumni Association for over 25 years. That's a long time. But my favorite tradition that I didn't get to participate in, but I had the opportunity to watch, and I can't remember when they stopped doing it, but they used to build boats out of cardboard and try to sail across the pond. And most of the time they didn't make it, and people went swimming in the pond, but that was really fun.
Yes, the shore to slimy shore.
Is it what you called it?
Yeah, the shore to slimy shore. I think it was part of the Western Olympics. Does that ring a bell or something? Yeah, Sean saying yeah. Eric saying yeah, there was a Western Olympics. And I mean, the opportunity for us to revisit those traditions in June, make new traditions, is in front of us. And the great part about this is that we have the shared experience of place and maybe time or not time. But we, looking ahead into the future, we can do new things, and revisit those. So thank you all so much. I did write down, I know we're recording this, but I did write down all those. We do have an artist who is going to be making the poster, like a concert poster, and I want to get all these traditions on there. So we have a link that's at the end of this. Some of you may have already filled it out, but there should be a part on there to just write down some of those traditions. We're just trying to collect those as much as stuff. All right, I'm seeing them in the list too, so that's great. Thank you, Ben. And if you want to go ahead and spotlight me again, that would be awesome. Our biggest pressing item right now, that we just want to make sure everybody knows about, is the upcoming alumni weekend. And that is technically officially June 7th through 9th although some people will be arriving on June 6th just to kind of get, settled in. We have at this time the opportunity, you could stay, if you have family and you have kids, you want to stay in a quad or something on North Campus, so those options will be available. We won't have registration open until March or so. So this is not something that we're going to be asking people to register for now, but it's something you can put on your calendar right now. So if you haven't already, put on June 9th in the June 7th through 9th, or June 6th. I think I'm going to try to get there on the 6th, on for our alumni weekend. Now, it's Miami's alumni weekend, so there's going to be a lot of things going on across campus, but it's also the 50th reunion of the last graduating class of Western. I hope I'm getting that right, the Western College. And they are at that time going to really turn it over to us to kind of keep this tradition going. They will have their own affinity organization like ours, but we want to pull as many folks into WAAMU as possible. So whether you are a Miami student, a Western student, a Western college grad, staff member, a friend of Western, right? We want to make sure that you see yourself coming back together and reconnecting and connecting with new people as we go through the next year. So I just want to make sure that everybody has that on their agenda or on their calendar, June 7th or 9th. There is a hall called Young Hall where it's on Western, and it has air conditioning and an elevator. And if we get enough people, there'll be overflow in Clausen Hall. So we want to get as many people there to support the 50th anniversary of the last graduating class of Western, but also to support us as WAAMU. Like, we want to see our traditions come to life. People are talking about doing Shore to Slimy Shore. They're talking about doing some of those other traditions, cotillion, off-campus dance party. We are looking at doing a hike with Hayes leading us on a hike through the woods. We're also putting together a panel of current and past faculty and staff that will talk about their experiences of Western and also invite questions, and we can kind of get into everything, things that you might have been wondering going on at that time. So we have a lot of things coming up, so I just want to make sure everybody has that on their calendar. We are so fortunate to have Debbie and to have Sarah from alumni and the alumni groups, right? But also Audrey is stepping up to work on making sure that we are logistically going well for the June event. Audrey, if you don't know, is a past president of WAAMU and did an amazing job at our fall 50th reunion. It was the 50th Western reunion. And if you weren't there, that's okay, come in June. But it was a really special, amazing occasion. And it was well organized and put together. We had a lot of representation from classes between 1978 and 1986. So we want to make sure that in June, we have representation all the way to 2023, 24, right at that point. We want to make sure everybody knows that they're invited back to campus to walk on the grounds, the special grounds of Western. So if there are any questions about that or any comments, this would be a good time to just go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know what you're thinking. I will say too that there will be an insert going out in the WCAA mailer about the alumni weekend, where again we're asking for traditions and trying to gauge who's going to be there, so that we know what to expect. I think with all sorts of reunions, this was my first reunion in October, and it was just so awesome meeting Western people. People I didn't know, I never knew before. I just felt like we were all family, like when we got there, which was really awesome. All right.
I have, I thought it was great in October. It was a lot like the one that was about 5 years earlier, which was an all years reunion. Do you have a sense of why you mentioned the early years up to 1986? My class of 88 I think there were only 3 of us there. Why did the younger classes not show up in bigger numbers? Any idea?
So I think we know why some of those classes did show up in big numbers. There were a couple lead people from those classes who said we're going to drag everybody in there. I also heard from some folks that, we are a couple years from retirement and we want to get more involved in Western and the Western Alumni Association, which was really exciting. I think that we're going to be building, like, I think this group is going to grow, right? Like over the years. So I think as people free up more time and space, that they'll be there. And I think Audrey has, she was coordinating all this stuff and doing such a great job. So yeah, Audrey, if you want to chime in.
I can chime in on why the lower classes did not come. I think there is definitely a financial difference between people being able to come in from different areas for a weekend. It is a 3-day. It's kind of a random weekend. It's not necessarily a holiday. People would have to take off. So I did hear from some of the people who are more of the younger generation. It was timing, money. I know myself, I'm of the 2010 class, and a lot of us have young kids, and it's not as easy to be able to get away for 3 days without I was fortunate that I was committed enough that I told my kids, sorry, your commitments are not important this weekend. So this is more important. But I think that there's just I think that you're kind of seeing the people who are, to Mark's point, the people who are older, who don't have, maybe are empty nesters or are getting closer to retirement, have a little bit more time on their hands, or are looking for reinvestment into an organization like the Alumni Association. So they're kind of re-engaging and engaging at a different level, whereas the people at the younger classes, whereas they're not necessarily whereas they're not disengaged, they're just engaged in different ways, is what I would say. I know that there was quite a few people who were local who were able to pop in, maybe not officially be part of the weekend, but they were able to pop in for a day or something like that. So I think that is definitely a conversation, and it was something that we noted to take kind of consideration for the next 5-year reunion, which we are fully planning on doing, I believe. So I that was noted, Jeff. So thank you for making sure that it is top of mind for us in planning. But I just think it's different life miles, like very different life places, is what we're finding. And I think what we're trying to figure out is how to balance those kind of levels of commitments and ability to commit with, different resources, time, money, etc. So Jeff, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I think we wanted to even explore, would there be possibility to do like a scholarship or a fund that we can help, not a scholarship, but a fund where folks, look at the cost and they say, hey, I want to go, but, could you bring that down a little bit? So that's something I think Sarah and I have talked about. We, have thought about the possibility of doing that. Because you're right. I mean, depending on where you are in your life, $100 registration could just be no way, right? So that's something that we need to think about, is how do we support people to get to the reunions? Because it's magic. The reunion was magic. I mean, it was just amazing. I turned out that I'm an ugly crier, someone told me, because I was anyway, so that's okay. So any other thoughts about that? Now we will be sending out our newsletters with information. We're piggybacking off of the WCAA's information about registration. Registration won't be open for another month or so. So we don't want to kind of get people too excited yet, so that they're not like, where's the registration? And they kind of forget. So when that registration goes live, we want to get as many of Western folks to send it out to all their networks, to call people up and say, hey, are you going to be there? because that's really the best way of relational organizing. Really is really the best way to get people to the events. So if you feel like you're a good, people in your class or your group of classes, like please step up and be that person to kind of bring some more folks. That's my goal, is to get more folks around our age in there. So any other thoughts about Alumni Weekend?
Hey, Mark, I just wanted to piggyback on your last comment. I mean, one of the things that really resonated for me with the people I talked to, and thanks for the reminder that we're a ways out from registration. Sometimes it's hard to say, oh, let me go ahead and wait. But unless you have a strong call to action, like you can register now, it's probably best to wait a few more weeks to start doing this. But one of the things that resonated with the people I talked with was just the importance of a personal invitation, like someone reaching out to them or one friend reaching out to another. I heard a lot from folks how much that motivated them to be there in October, and I would guess that would probably be the same benefit for June as well.
Absolutely. So one
Ben,
thing.
Ben, this is Barbara.
Hey, Barbara.
Talking to from those that have been involved for years and years. I think the personal invitation that Ben mentioned is vital. And I think what we have tried to do is have a class representative for each class, and that person then promotes coming to reunion. It seems to be of significance if someone you knew when you were there invites you, and you all knew different people, and the people you knew different people. So, it can be cumulative, but there may be some that think, well, this is the old ladies reunion and not meant for WAAMU. But we want to make sure that there are things that will be exciting for all of you too.
Absolutely.
Hey, Barbara, you stirred something else for me before I forget about it. I know I've heard from my class rep, who usually provides the roll up of what's going on with folks for inclusion in the bulletin, in the last bulletin. And I know I'm planning to have that call to action too, and that it'll be in writing to, the class of 94 and whoever is reading those. But I would encourage folks, if you're in an even numbered year, or you have a classmate who's collecting comments for the bulletin, to put your own written invitation in there. Let people know that you're coming and encourage them to do the same. And I think if people keep flipping through the pages and see enough of that from across decades within the class updates, it might set off some light bulbs.
Absolutely. So we're going to keep moving on this. Now, if you do want to get more involved with Alumni Weekend, contact me or contact Audrey, who is helping out with this. So we have next on our agenda, which none of you have seen, is the expectations of the board. And one of the things that we are doing this year is getting our board put together and being strong. And our expectations are pretty simple. We do expect people to come to our quarterly board meetings. We want people to be active and engaged and help represent Western and to their classmates and other Western folks for like these events, reaching out to people. And as Debbie just pointed out, in the next bulletin, since it will be the last one, we're asking for all classes to submit stuff. So it doesn't matter if you're an odd year or an even year. Anyone can submit stuff. This will be the last time before we go fully digital with our bulletin and newsletter. So we might be looking at something in the future, but it's not going to be this big, awesome bulletin magazine, which I have so many of them over here that I just love looking through those. So we, like I said, we're going to have quarterly meetings. So our next board meeting is actually at Alumni Weekend. So it'll be in June. That'll be our spring, yeah, I guess that's the end of spring, our spring board meeting. And then the fall and the winter summer and fall will be on Zoom. So it'll be wherever you are, we'll be able to be in that. We also have several goals for this year. Besides the alumni weekend, which is a huge goal, we are happy to report that at the reunion, the 50th year reunion, we were able to raise the funds for the Memorial Rock for Mary Lyon Hall. So there will be, we're hoping that in June, that we'll be able to unveil that or at least meet at the site. For those of you who don't know, Mary Lyon was torn down. And so we want to have a plaque there with a picture of it, kind of like the other halls that have been torn down, just to commemorate that. But we also have, very excitingly, a Friends of Western Award to give out at June. And I'm not letting the cat out of the bag here because we already know. So it will be given to Hayes Cummins, who is a former professor at Western. And I know Hayes had a huge impact on me. He, very similarly to, I think Marla said, I think he challenged the way I thought. And it was the Frisbee. It was the Frisbee lab where you take the Frisbee and you throw it in the, in the grass and you have to count and all that stuff. That was something that, changed the way I think about things. And so we're excited that Hayes will be here in June at the alumni weekend to receive his award, but also be on the panel of current and former faculty and staff and lead us on a hike through the woods for those who are able to do that. And so that's going to be really excited. And there is, and the other things that we're working on, this is another exciting thing, y'all. There's people in this room that don't even know this because we just found out yesterday. Dun, 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 dun. WAAMU will have an office in Peabody Hall. So we are going to kind of recalibrate on what that means, how that's going to communicate with current students, using the door and Peabody fashion to like have information on it about getting involved, about being part of WAAMU, because anyone who's taken a Miami class is technically part of WAAMU. So current students are also still really part of this, but we are going to be looking for folks, maybe folks who are living in Oxford, to maybe spend some time in that office or around specific events. And we'll talk about the lecture, the Western lecture series that's happening in the next few, in February and March, so this month and next month. But we want to, as a board, figure out, and as WAAMU, figure out how we're going to utilize that office. And will we be able to have office hours, for instance? Are there going to be resources for students outside of just WAAMU, but like connecting the alum? We have a vast alumni network. And so we want to make sure that we are connecting current students with that work that we're doing. So I know that's really like brand new news. And I know some of y'all know I'm looking at you because you live in Oxford. But my goal is to get up there more. So that's like one of my personal goals. I live in Cincinnati, so it's not that far. But that is something that we are thinking about. So I'm just planting that seed now. And we want to think about like how we can use that. All right, and Katie is awesome, saying we'll do some office hours. There were also a couple people who were at the 50th that expressed wanting, that lived in Oxford, that want to do more. So we'll coordinate. I'm going to kind of move on because I know I said I wanted to be done in 3 minutes. But I wanted to plant that seed. So if you have ideas of like what that office could do, what information we can give out, what do you want on the door, so that when people are walking by, and if you would prefer that we be on the Leonard Theater floor or in the basement floor, because those are kind of our options right now. And so we'll kind of go through that. Any thoughts, quick thoughts about that?
Leonard floor.
Leonard floor. I will second that.
All right, so that is
Oh,
going to be
and see, to the basement.
right. Yeah, we don't want to be hidden away, right? So I will kind of relay that. I'll relay that we have some interest on folks doing that. The building will only have access during like the 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever the building is open. But we'll also figure out like where and how are we keeping the key and stuff like that. So I'll get with y'all on that. So look out for an email about that. Awesome. So we also have committees. Now, someone on Facebook wrote committees ... Yikes. And I get it, right? Like I get committees can seem kind of like, oh, this is daunting. This is too much. But in my experience in community organizing and community councils and leaderships, we really have to have committees to get things done. And we are so fortunate that so many of you have stepped up to be part of a committee. Either I've talked to you personally, like at the reunion or since then. And so we are going to have 2 chairs of a committee, so co-chairs of committees. And we're looking to have about 5 to 7 people in a committee. Now, we did a WAAMU onboarding session, and thank you so much for everyone who showed up for that. For those of you who showed up for both of them, I think it was really amazing to spend that time with everybody. But what we saw from that is that we have a lot of interest in a couple boards and not a lot of interest in a couple other boards. So the boards that we have interest in are like the communications and membership boards, and especially the Future of Western board, the Western 4.0 board. I'm sorry, those are committees, but the Western Future of Western is a board. It's kind of separate from us, but it's kind of ad hoc WAAMU board, right? Because when they get a new director of Western, if we don't say what we want, I think it's a big missed opportunity. So that board has a lot of folks interested in it. But the one board that there isn't a lot of interest in is in the like structure and bylaws board. So we might just kind of pull that into a position. But at the end of this meeting, and we'll share this out in an email in the next week or so, we're going to ask you to fill out a Google form and rank choice. We didn't put rank choice on it before. We imagine that people can only sit on 2 committees. So we don't want to, spread people too thin, but we also want to be very effective. So just to quickly kind of go over those boards, the structure and bylaws looks at the bylaws of the organization and make sure that we're doing stuff right. There's some stuff we need to change in terms of roles and years and stuff like that. We have a membership board, and that membership board is kind of like what Ben was talking about. We want to grow the alumni network. We want to reach out to people person to person and say, hey, can you be a part of this? Some of the folks in this room, are here because we were like, who needs to be a part of this? And your name came across a couple times, and then maybe Mike reached out to you and said, hey, we need you to be a part of this, right? So that membership is really important for us to build our board, our committees, but also our events, whether that be on site and on Western events, or that be those satellite events. We also have a communications committee, and that committee, if I say board, I'm sorry, that committee is really dedicated to sending out the newsletters, looking at what the transition away from the bulletin really is and what it's going to look like, and also like what is our social media, right? Because right now there's like 4 or 5 Western Facebook pages. There's this, random LinkedIn Western thing going on. But we have a YouTube page now, and this will go up on the YouTube with like the WAAMU onboardings on there. But what does our social media look like, right? So that's going to be the communications. And like I said, the Future of Western, the Western 4.0 board that we're talking about is going to be meeting this year because we want to have recommendations or some information for the search committee for the next director of Western. So that is really they're going to be meeting probably most. And what's so great about it though, is there are people who are committed to that. So Alicia Marin Marseille, who was graduated with me in 2001, is stepping up to kind of not take over, but help lead that because she has a lot of experience in experiential learning, working across campuses and higher education, working on grant writing, picking people to work in places, right? So she already has in kind of some mind what kind of deliverables that they're looking to have before the beginning of August, before the next school year starts, so that when that search for the director comes, that we'll have a Western alumni voice in that. So that's really exciting because not only are there some folks from 2.0 in that, there's some 3.0s who are stepping up that are really interested in that. And there's some former faculty and staff that want to be a part of that as well. So that Future of Western board is going to be doing some stuff. And so if you think you can envision what the future of higher education looks like, or what your experience at Western was and how that informs what Western could be, then I encourage you to be a part of that committee as well. So that's just a kind of a rundown. And again, there'll be, there's descriptions of it. We talk about it a little bit more in that WAAMU onboarding video, which is available on our YouTube. And we'll be able to rank choice where you want to be on the Google form that we send out at the end or through email in the next week. Awesome. Thank you so much. Any quick questions about that? Because we're about halfway through and we have 10 minutes. So. Look, the committees we're trying to have you meet for, that was a great question. We want you to meet quarterly as well. And the committee, and the committee expectations are that there's a quarterly report. So if you don't meet and on Zoom or through the phone, you just say, hey, this is what we're working on, so that when we have our quarterly board meetings, we can just quickly say, they're working on this, they're working on that, right? So that we want to be a part of that. Great. So the sign up form is going to be, I'll drop it in the, what is this thing called? A chat here in a minute. But we know that there's a couple upcoming events. So I want to kind of share these with everybody. And these are in the Western College program or the Western Center page, the Western Center page on Miami. You do have to register for these. There are 2 upcoming lectures that are coming up. It's the Western College Legacy Seminar speaking events. And the biennial theme for Western, in case you don't know right now, is democracy and transformation. And so there are 2 people that are going to be speaking, and both of them will be streamed, but you do have to register for the stream. So it's really important that if you're interested in this, that you do register. So the first one is going to be on February 13th at 5:30 p.m. It's going to be in McGuffey 322. And the title is Voter Rights 60 Years After Freedom Summer. And Camille Wimbush, who is one of my classmates from high school. Oh, surprise. We went to high school together. She is going to be, that had nothing to do with this. I'm just very proud of her. I'm very proud of Walnut Hills and what we do. She is doing national election protection lawyer. And she's going to discuss modern challenges to voter rights and how that may play out in the 2024 election, right? This is kind of a big election year. And then on March 5th at 6 p.m. In Scheidler and 152, the author of Degenerations of Democracy and What Comes Next, Craig Calhoun, will discuss the challenges of democracy around the world and how we can strengthen democracy in the United States, which is actually a pretty big deal. I think I see that on some folks' faces. And these lectures will be recorded and available afterwards. So if you want to be there at the time, make sure you register beforehand, but they will be recorded for that afterwards. So, wow. Now that is the end of our information here. We have about 8 minutes. So we're just going to kind of open it up for some discussion, but we are going to stop at 8 o'clock. I love y'all like so much. I love Western, and I will say here and talk to you forever. But we can go ahead and have just like a quick discussion and any thoughts that you all have. I do want to say, like, how many of you, like, if you could show of hands or hit the like reaction button, how many of you are going to be here for the June or planning on being here coming in June? All right, we see some hands. Maybe we can twist some arms up there. We would love to have everyone here at that. I know Ben's really excited about having, one of those off-campus parties. But those kinds of traditions are really good. But can we all commit to try to get just 2 more people from our class there? Like literally just, if we all just got 2 people, even if you can't make it up from Louisiana, but if you could just get 2 people to come up to the beautiful Oxford in June with all the
Hey,
great
Mark,
community.
I,
Yes.
I have them, and we have secured a house off campus. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. So at this point, we're just going to cut the recording. We can stop the
I am
recording.
happy to do that.
But thank you all so much. Hopefully we'll see you